Well, I'd need more than that. Well, we'll
Okay.
have a break in a bit. We can all cover each other.
All right. Yeah, cool. Okay. All right. We'll go 2, 1, 3. Okay, 2, 1, 3. Let's go. This is the Wookie House. I'm Luna, and welcome to the round table. This week our topic is about spirits and UFOs. Are they the same? Are they different? And do they even exist at all? And today's guest is Jason, and we have Malia, our co-host as usual. Unfortunately, Algo couldn't make it today, but that's okay. We're still going to have a good time. And I'd like to welcome Malia. How you going, Malia?
I am here and present.
Cool. And our guest, Jason. Thank you for coming back, Jason.
That's right. Thanks for having me on again.
That's okay. All right. Well, I hope you are all in good spirits today, because Christmas is only 1 week away, and we'll kick it off with Jason. Give us the scope on UFOs and spirits.
Right. I started when I was a kid. I loved sci-fi. I watched Star Trek and Star Wars, obviously, as a kid. Read Jules Verne's, loved like War of the Worlds and H.G. Wells, loved all that stuff. And I got a book called Above Top Secret by Timothy Good, and that's what got me into UFOs as a kid. So I followed him. I followed all the big ones that are all on there. Ancient Aliens, like Richard Dolan and all them lot. Stephen Greer, followed it all, loved it. Was really into it. And then when Stephen Greer went in front of all the Congress in the mid-noughties, and then said the closure was coming and all that. I believed it all. And then afterwards, I basically just gave up on it because I thought basically it was a con. But when I went back to look at it, I think I've changed my mind over the years about it being more black projects or a secret space program.
Yep.
From what we catch, I think there's obviously aliens in the solar system, but I just don't think they're stupid enough to get caught on camera or to crash.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So you're more inclined to say it's us building craft that they haven't let out into the public.
Yeah, because I was talking about this with my friend today. If I'm correct, I think the Blackbird came out in 1969, the first stealth bomb, the first stealth plane, the Blackbird. If I'm right, and then that's the same time we went to the moon in a climbing frame covered in gold. So I think we may have went to the moon, but in a different craft.
Yeah, I have my suspicions like that. As I was talking to you earlier, I've had encounters, but underneath all that, the craft that I see of late, I really do think that they're ours, and it's technology they haven't released.
Especially that triangle black ship. You see that that looks that's caught everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. More open your end. Down here we have more long ships. We get those ball bearing ones, the silver ball bearings. Have you seen them? Yeah, we get them. But I think
them in Mexico a lot as well.
Yeah, I think they're information collectors.
Do you think? More like drones?
Yeah, and they're collecting data and information. That's what it seems to me.
Yeah.
I did have a photo. I had an encounter with one of them once, and I was trying to get the photos on, but I couldn't do it because I'm not that good at technology. What happened to me, I was on a train going to a station, and as I got off onto the station, I was going to visit someone. Upstairs said, "You hear that plane?" And I'm thinking, yeah, so what? What about that plane? And as I was walking off the station up the road, it was opening up its open area. They said, "Look at the plane." And I looked up, and at the tail of the plane, I saw 3 of those ball bearing kind of things spinning around each other at the back of the tail. And I just went, wow. And I'm looking around for people to say, "Can you see that?" And there was no one there. And thank God I thought for the last minute. I actually pulled my phone out and took a picture. But by the time I took a picture, it was like they knew. And they'd moved up to underneath the clouds. And the picture I have looks like 3 ball bearings sitting at the bottom of a cloud.
Yeah.
And that was my encounter with them, my first encounter with the ball bearings. So what's your take on them?
Well, obviously, I love UFO lore, and obviously going back to the Foo Fighters in the Second World War and stuff like that. Obviously, they had the energy spheres, didn't they? Um, I don't know. I think I've just got a little bit cynical about the UFO scene, just because, obviously, because of video and YouTube and all the other um, videos online, and there's so many fakes now that it just sort of, I don't know, it's been diluted a little bit, and all the people who they're making a lot of money off UFOs and ancient aliens, and you know what I mean, it's almost going into blue chicken territory. But I think essentially there are aliens and they've probably been here, and I suppose even if 1% of the pictures might be true or video, it's still very interesting. And also I used to think that maybe that they were not from this universe, more from another dimension, that we're seeing them split between two dimensions.
Yeah. So before we get right into this, what's your take on it, Malia? Hello, Malia, are you with us? Malia's not here. Okay, so we'll keep going. I see what you're seeing, Jason, there. I believe too we're spiritual beings, and I have no doubt that there are spiritual beings for them to be, how can I put it, for them to be advanced, they'd have to be advanced spiritually also. And we do have to look at what is theirs and what is ours. I really do think a lot of what we're seeing now is ours. Because what you said, why would you come? Like, we're in turmoil. Any sanctioned being would know that.
Yeah, I've gone through different feelings about what they are. At first, I used to think they were alien UFO craft, what we all thought they were, spinning discs, really interesting. Then I went to Black Projects or Secret Space Program, and then I went to the theory that they might be fallen angels. That sort of, I went down that route for a while. So yeah, I'm open to a lot of possibilities. So yeah, is it aliens? Is it angels? Is it demons? Right. Is it? I don't know. There's so many possibilities. Are we living in a matrix and they're just part of the game? I don't know.
Well, let's break it down and we'll go back a bit in history. Have you ever seen those old books? And they're from, some of them are from England and they're Europe and that. Old handwritten books where they've actually drawn pictures of craft in the sky. Yeah, like they've even got some of Jesus with.
I know what you're saying. That goes on to almost like the where Da Vinci put in like a UFO behind the Mona Lisa and all the other clues they give.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I think there's always been something in the air. Whether it's what it is, I don't know. But yeah, I know what you're saying. If you go back to the Dogon tribes and all that lot in Africa, they talk about a time before the moon and when the ant people came and all that lot. And like all the old ancients talk about a time when the gods came. Now the gods, aliens. Because this is what Kev got into the other day when he was talking about, was Jesus an alien? Really interesting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yep. So, because I look at back then, I think, okay, back then we didn't have phones and computers, all right, not that we know of anyway, because making a radio is just a crystal and a bit of metal, do you know what I mean? So we can't actually say they didn't have anything like that back then because we don't know for sure. So just presume they didn't. We'll presume they didn't have any technology and they still had visitors. So that wasn't us. I doubt that was us back then, right? So we can go
from talking about ancient alien sort of, did they DNA change us? Did they give us tools? Did they give us a leap forward?
Yeah, well, I actually believe there's the ones, I've met many different ones, so I know they're like us, they're different kinds, right? And they have different ways. Some of them are compassionate to us and some of them aren't. Some of them look at you like, how dare you even look at me?
Yeah. Also, as soon as you said that, what popped into my head was something that makes me feel like that they're bad spirits lying to you about being aliens. Do you get what I mean? Do you
That
remember
can
when?
happen.
Did you watch the show that Kev had those two Welsh paranormal investigators on? One of them's the blind one, and he's a medium. And they did that spirit box session where they picked up the 12, and the 12 claimed to be from like aliens and stuff. I just got from that whole show the feeling that they were being lied to by some kind of spirits
Yeah.
or bad. Do you know what I mean? Bad entities. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that because seeing spirit and that, having the excuse of being an alien is just another excuse for them. Oh, good, we can pretend to be aliens and talk to them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, because as it is when you see a spirit, you've got to grill them and watch them to see if they flicker, so you know that it's the true form, that what you're seeing, they're being honest. Yeah, and if they take alien form, it makes it even harder to discern. Yeah, you got a good point
I
there.
agree. Well, I
Yeah.
want to point out too what you said about if you're watching them in the spirit, you have to watch them very, very, very closely to see if they will flicker. If they flicker is when you know that they're not in their original form.
Mm.
Yeah, that's right. So you get an alien being, so it says, and the first thing you thought is you're scared out of your wits because it's not a normal thing. It's not like a spirit. We're all used to that now. Yeah, so the fear has a lot to do with it. As soon as your mind goes fear, what is it? I don't understand. Then that impression is even deeper. So you do think it is what you're seeing, and you don't discern as much.
That fear
Yeah.
gets projected, and the entity, especially if it's evil entity, would become stronger and target on that exact space in your mind that it recognized the fear was triggered. So it'll use that against you as well.
And
Oh, go on, Luna.
no, I was just going to say, from my encounter, the visitors that I've met, they don't want anything off you, like a spirit that comes to you that is not what it is. It's a dark one. It'll siphon you for stuff and it'll want to talk to you. It's like holding you on the phone so it can get stuff out of you. The visitors don't. They don't really want to talk to you. A lot of them think we're subspecies, because when you think about it, we are, because we haven't even developed our telepathy in that properly yet. So they look at us like that. They don't really want to talk to us. So there's a bit of an indication if something appears.
Yeah.
Look at it like that.
I believe that you can talk to spirits, but I have an hard time believing that you can talk to aliens. I'm not calling you liars, just
no, that's all right.
Sort of like it really blows my mind. It's almost like I just can't process it.
All right, I'll give
you talking to dead people. I haven't got a problem with in my head. So what's the difference? I don't know. It's weird.
Well, I'll give you a thing that happened to me, and again, I wanted to put another picture up, but I couldn't technologically. The picture that I wanted to put up were little craft. They look like a piece of rice. They're purple at one end and green at the other, and it's like light that's coming out of them, and they just sit up in the atmosphere. And I'll tell you my encounter, and this might help you out a bit. So I was outside. I was sitting inside, and my beepers went up. I ran outside. I looked at the sky. I couldn't actually see anything. I thought, what the hell is going on here? So my darling husband bought me a little telescope that goes onto my phone. So I attached that to my phone. I ran outside and I started taking pictures of the sky at random, but I went by my intuition feeling. So I was taking pictures of clouds and that. I ran inside, and it took me about 10 minutes to filter through them, and I blew them up and I went through them, and I found these little rice things. There were two sitting up in the sky above my house. And I thought, okay, say they're birds or a plane. I'll wait 10 minutes because then they'd move. I went back out, took the photo again. They're in the same position. I come back in. I went, rightio. So I know you're there. I'm looking at you. And then I felt another one come. So I rushed out and took more photos. And the third one's in there. You can actually see the third one. And then the third one was coming as if to say, what the hell's going on here? And then I did again. I came in for 10 minutes, went back out. And the third one had gone by the time I come back out. But the two were still sitting there. So my friend came over during all this, and I never said anything to her. And we were sitting out the back, and she just said to me, "There's something in the sky, Anne-Marie." I said, "Yes, there is." And I looked away and looked at the ground, and mentally I spoke to the thing in the sky, and she grabbed me and went, "I saw that you were talking to them. It was like a blue beam coming from your mind to them." And I went, "Oh my God, did you see that?"
Awesome.
So, and then those things have been around randomly since then.
See, I'm going to go back on how I feel about. I said this on the Kev Baker show once, where back in the day where there was dragons and little people and giants and imps and trolls, I believe people see things what they see to interpret. Now we think because of the explosion after the Foo Fighters and science fiction of the discs, everyone saw discs, and then everyone started seeing triangle ships, and everyone started seeing. I don't know if it's how our mind processes what we're seeing, and how I feel about it is either, I don't know, I just get the feeling that it could be some kind of malevolent force. I coming from the more religious I found I got and started reading stuff, the more I felt that quite a lot of them might not be actual aliens, but I do believe in aliens.
Yeah. I think that what you said earlier, Luna, about, and I think, no, it was you, Jason, that said it, that we can't necessarily speak with the aliens. And Luna, you said so too, yeah. Or UFOs or this type, but the spirits are the ones who want to speak. And normally it's the malevolent ones that want to talk and talk and talk and talk with you, though. What I've found is good spiritual creatures come to deliver a message. They deliver the message and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And I've also had them come round and say there's things going on and we're just here for a week or two to protect you.
Right.
And they've hung around and, yeah, whatever's going on, I don't know. But they've hung around and they've done that for my children as well.
Yeah.
I truly believe, I truly believe and know, I'd say 100%, we do have other beings, okay? And they have a head, 2 arms and 2 legs like us, but they don't necessarily look like us, okay? I believe that 100%. Everyone's got their individual right to think what they want, but I go by experience. Yeah, I'm an experienced person, you know. If it's come into my life and I've breathed it, felt it, thought it, you know, and it's touched me, then it's real. Otherwise, if you're an honest person, I'll believe what you say in your encounter.
Yeah.
But I've had an encounter, Jason, a very unique encounter, and no one has ever mentioned this, what I saw on the ship. And if someone came up and talked about it, I'd believe him, because it's a very practical, everyday thing. And when you think about it, if there are humans on a ship, they're going to need this facility. I won't go into detail because it's a funny story, but these facilities are on the ships, and if someone had an experience and they were on the ship for more than an hour, they would have used this facility, but I've never heard no one talk about it. Awesome. And I'm waiting. Yeah. I'm waiting.
See, I suppose I'm more of an agnostic sort of view on UFOs. I want to see one first, you know what I mean? So
come to Australia.
But what I've noticed,
Arizona, they're all over the place in Arizona and Montana.
But you got so many secret bases in all the deserts, even in Australia and America, haven't you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, lots.
So I reckon 99% of them are either black projects, mistaken identity. But I think there is a slim chance that sometimes one of them could be something. Whether it's an angel, whether it's something like a glowing ball, I don't know, a Foo Fighter, a disc, I don't know. That's what makes it such an interesting topic.
I think there's a variety of them. And we got to remember that we live in the 21st century, so some of the ships are outdated now and they don't actually look like that.
Yeah. And also, I've always been more interested in USOs. Underwater.
There's another subject, because we're all looking at the sky, and I actually
make more sense for them to be under the sea, wouldn't it?
Well, the bases are in the sea; they're in the mountains and in the seas.
Yep.
That's
We
where
go
the
in
base
there,
is.
are we? Excellent. What about the Nazi UFOs in Antarctica then?
Oh, look, we're going deep. Ooh, yes, I've studied that. They reckon that the Germans found another beings down there, and with better technology, they very well might have. They obviously, we all know there's a big secret from that end, from
Oh
everything,
yeah, the
right?
rumors claimed that they were being helped by the Aryan aliens, weren't they? That's the rumor.
Yes, yes. And we all know the deception about the war itself, and we know that in war there is actually no true victor and no true person that lost, because they all make deals behind the curtains. So it makes you wonder. And if we look at it this way and go, all right, that happened, they all know, they've been working with them since then, all the governments have, that would explain why they've got all this U-boot technology and these flying crafts that we don't know about and we only see. That would be a good
They got
explanation
to
for
be
that.
100 years ahead of us in technology, the
Oh,
governments, maybe even
way
more.
than that.
Yeah.
Because remember, we had a period of sleep, like the Dark Ages and all that calm, and then we've made it to here. To them, that would have been a period of us going unconscious because they were still functioning.
But I'm surprised there hasn't been more sightings this year, considering what's going on in the world.
They don't want to catch COVID.
I don't think they have to worry about that. It's not really worrying to the humans.
I know,
but,
we know.
Seen
We know where the cows do their business.
I actually thought the next card, the last card, is that the fake aliens are going to come and give us the cure.
Oh, right. Well, the fake aliens are the next card.
Yeah, the last card.
Yeah. I think that there has actually been an abundance of appearances for the past year, but what I've seen, like YouTube videos and stuff like that, some of them, most of the ones that are actual appearances are getting suppressed, and then tons and just a flood of fakes out there. And so the ones that are accurate or real, they're not getting reviewed or not even getting seen, really.
Yeah.
But coming out of Latin America and Guatemala, there has been billions this year.
Yes.
I really like Mexico, how they deal with this, because obviously they got that long-standing show with the famous Mexican UFO host, where they're quite open about it, their government, and on TV, aren't they? And they always get those swarms and clusters of the balls. I always think that's really interesting, whatever they are.
I've seen them balls come out of the moon.
Awesome.
Yeah,
What do we think about the moon?
Oh, we were talking about that, the other day.
I yesterday to my friend about obviously you got the Dogon tribes, and a lot of tribes talk about before when the moon was there and how it came and stuff.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, Malia?
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, last night with Algo.
There we are, we're syncing again. We've got this great synchronicity going on. Even though we're not in each other's presence, we're still all talking about the same stuff and thinking about the same stuff.
Yeah. So what did you think of the moon?
Oh, well, I was talking about in our tradition where there was a time when there was no moon and the light was different. It was dimmer.
Yeah.
And even in New Zealand, the Maoris, they have a story of the fair-skinned people because the light was dim and they were pale skin and they lived up in the mountain. And then the moon came and gave light to the night and changed things. And we're talking about how the moonlight is actually cooler. And if you stand under the eave in the moonlight, it's warmer. And if you step out into the moonlight, it's cooler. It's the opposite to the sun. And we're saying about, I think that if the moon either got pulled in by a ship, or I think maybe it was some kind of ship and it just, it could have been one of those giant silver ball bearing things and it just got, moved to position and then dirt and all that settled on top of it. Who knows?
I always think Death Star.
Yeah, like that. It's got the right holes.
The fact that it's the perfect size to do a perfect eclipse because it's the perfect length away from the sun. Obviously, nature and the universe and whatever made it and like what the universe is, it could quite easily be natural and it just the universe is so beautiful and what it does, it just does things like that. Do you know what I mean? But like the Dogons and like you say in Australia, they talk about a time before the moon, and I just think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it is. Pity there wasn't more information left on it.
Kind of a thing like where when like what Luna mentioned with the ball bearings type thing, but where there was something pre-Atlantean that was the moon that was set there, but that the Atlantean race put a device, a silver or ball bearing type thing, kind of like a pinball machine is kind of how I saw it in the spirit. Like it just and knocked it right there, so that it's still kind of the same size and shape and things, but that was original, but to cause a different light. Because when we look at Egyptian and Atlantean technologies, they were using the mirrors in a sense of being able to open up the radio communications with the light, with the crystals, with the frequencies of and vibrations of metals. So it makes sense to me that they would want something to focus the beams and direct at that is of those same makeup material of metals that they were working with. Possibly.
Talking of metals, to link it in, what do you think of like the Anunnaki story? How we were, because we were talking about this last night, me and a friend, where you've got like they're talking about now this Homo sapien with 5 different species that would have lived on this planet, and they still can't do the jump between the missing link. So what do you think about the story of the Anunnaki and the Sumerian tales about them coming to mine gold, and we had a DNA jump put in us, or they upgraded us so we could be better slaves?
Well, I think the Book of Enoch, the Book of Hanok, gives the best description of that, because, and Ken Ami to a degree, I don't agree with everything Ken says, but as far as his digging into, and I really wish Alga was here, because he's fascinatingly enough has a lot of information with the Book of Enoch. But what we see in those stories is a development of a type of godlike race or godlike beings who forsake their primary habitation that was built for them, that sustains them, and left that habitation and came here and slept with women. That race, that sleeping with the female mortal human, brought forth giants, says the book of Genesis, but there's a lot more information there. Several different races, because not only we see the deformed giant, but there are dualities or more than one race. It's not all of the giants are coming from Anunnaki. There's evidence that there were a race of giants in the original type of tribes. You look at the stories of the Lion of Judah or the tribe of Judah, and in not necessarily what's in the 66 books, exterior to that, we see, or extra biblical, that this tribe specifically had the ability to shout. One person in that tribe could shout, and was so big when he shouted that the walls would tumble and the stones would respond in vibration and literally move. So it shows a very clear picture of a giant being part of the largest or the highest or the top of the 12 tribes of Israel, the tribe of Judah, where kings would supposedly come through the line of kings. So, I think it's definitely something we could throw in there, because in the Anunnaki, we also see this, the Atlanteans being destroyed and the Anunnaki being connected with the Atlanteans. even in their own stories, probably about 3 years ago, the media started to push more and more the stories of the Anunnaki and the Atlanteans and so forth. And in their coded speech, you find almost an exact replica of some of these extra biblical texts that talk about the destruction of the race of the Atlanteans and what came after, which would have been these very tall, skinny silver beings, shiny silver beings with the dark oval eyes and the strange shaped head, teardrop shaped head. These are not spirit beings, but have a type of body that can materialize, and they have developed technology to be able to transport their material body to where they go. However, they still need a mode of transportation, thus the ships. And I think that in the very first episode of the X-Files, if you read the transcript of that first episode, it goes through within the first less than 3 pages, pretty much good detail of how the government teams and the UN teams and these types of military defense building and this kind of thing are working together with these so-called Greys to help them with their modes of transportation, to bring them into a more powerful state in our realm, in our terra firma, which is not their original habitation. It wasn't the place that they were created to live.
Yeah, I see the Greys, if you want to, what we were talking about earlier, bad spirits, out of all the beings I've seen, I'd say the Greys are the ones with the bad spirits in them.
Yeah,
Because they're like robotic, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and we all know that the Dark Ones just need a vessel. Doesn't matter if it's a robotic vessel or a flesh vessel. They can occupy it. I was going to say, adding to what Malia was saying and Jason about us being mucked around with to make better slaves, I think we're actually downgraded to make a better slave. They took away our natural gifts because we are telepathic and we can do telekinesis and heal and do all these other things. Yeah, I think they mucked around, downgraded us. And they're still doing it. Look at us today. Like, most people don't even know how to make a fire anymore, so that tells me we've been downgraded even more.
Which brings me on to something different quickly. We were also talking about the library at Alexandria and how the Romans sacked it and burnt it, and what could have been written down, all our history. And now we're getting into then the fact of what they wrote about, and did we lose all this technology? So maybe there's no aliens, and all we've discovered is the old, say, Atlantean technology, or even a time before them, even a time before that. Have we been here a lot longer than we think we have?
Well, I reckon, yes, we've been here a lot longer than we think we have. How can I say this? There are other beings, because when Creator made us, there were others around when we were being made. And those beings, I believe, are still around.
Yeah.
And we call them, I call them the others. All right, I don't like the word alien. I call them the others. They've always been here. They're like the animals. They were here before us.
Yeah.
That's what I reckon anyway. And that's why I want to say the others too. Like, any being would have a spirit, so they could travel spiritually and do that as well. So I'm more inclined to think that the more loving ones would contact us that way because it's safer.
Yeah.
And
so what do you think about the Bible version where we're the only species in the universe, and if we are, hypothetically, what are they if they're not aliens? Are they
Well,
angels,
that's gotta be-
demons?
that's got to be just a massive translation error, because even the Bible itself describes at least 4 different forms that can't be described as like us, like human. So, I mean, they describe the angels. They describe different beings of angels, different types. It describes unicorns. It describes mythological creatures. That little people, even, and yeah, I think it's just been taken out of our thought, of our understanding, to make it seem as if that stuff is just a story, a fabrication. But yeah,
It depends too on your culture and what you're brought up with. So if you're brought up with the Bible, you just in the Bible it's black and white, and
Yeah.
it says anything other than humans is bad, basically. And then you got your angels, which are supposed to be good, but you got bad ones as well. That's all it basically tells you. And that a gifted man came and showed you a few things about the dark ones and how to heal and stuff like that. You're brought up tribally, it's a totally different thing. It's not as black and white. There are lots of beings, good and bad. And we're not the only ones here, and we have to live with many others, so on and so forth. It's a different take. So we're more likely to understand or believe something out of the box than
Right.
someone else. Do you understand? And that's okay. That's what it's all about, growing and learning. Somewhere we'll come to a happy medium. The truth will come out. And I tend to go with the old ones, like before, like I said, before technology, what did they say? It's going to be more truthful than what we have now.
I sort of suppose I come from the feeling now that they've all reading the UFO books as a kid. There's one thing I did know, that the governments lie, and I learnt that early on. And with the sacking of like Alexandria and hiding of our history, have they always been here, and have we always been friends with them? Have they taken that away? Did we come from another planet? Is this our original planet? Did we come from somewhere else? So yeah, I don't know. There's a million different possibilities. Are they interdimensional? I lean towards more of that. If you see something, maybe it's interdimensional. Are we even here? Is it a simulation, or are these UFOs just glitches in a program? Who knows?
Well, if you're a spiritual being and you come here and take a body, you could say it's like a game because you're in an avatar.
Yeah.
You got to remember them too. If they want to come here, they have to have a body, right? That's the law of this land. If you want to play the game, you got to manifest some sort of physical body. Otherwise, you're secondary in the spirit, and you got to hope that someone can hear and see you. Unless you've got a lot of energy and you can appear, but you can't actually exist on every second of the day like we do, because we got a body to do that. And even we go to sleep to zip out and get a rest.
See, this is where, are ghosts really aliens, or are they interdimensional beings? Are all things all getting mixed up? I don't know. Is it all the same thing? Are they all?
No, I don't believe it. We're all different. Are you the same as me? Yes, you are, but you're not.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, see? It's the same.
See, I don't know. I suppose I've just become cynical about the whole UFO scene when I got older. Because obviously, I don't know, we've been told disclosures come in for the last 30 years now, every day. Disclosures come only around the corner.
Yeah. I need to write a paper. Maybe people will believe it more. No, but from what you're telling me, Jason, you've read books about UFOs. That was disinformation from the beginning. They're not going to tell you the truth, because a being of higher spiritual mind would come here to help us, and it would be heal everyone, make sure there's enough food for everyone, and make sure that everyone walks a good spiritual path. Who in power on this planet wants that?
Right.
No one.
Then we're getting to the theory that it's actually a war going on, and it's on Earth, and there's different species on different sides, and bad side and a good side. Do you know what I mean? But then we're getting into blue chicken territory, a bit close.
Well, how can I put it? So, Creator always taught me that if you want the truth and you really want to know stuff, you go to the person that isn't famous, the everyday living person, right? So we've got two lots here. We've got those that do appear to the everyday living person, and we've got those that appear to the government, and they're all the advertised ones, right? They're the ones with all the what do they call it? Yeah, they're advertised. They're in books. They're on movies. You know, they're the ones they're advertised to us. The other ones aren't advertised to us. We hear them through people's personal encounters. If they haven't watched too many movies and read too many books, that is, because it's programming. You got to see the programming here. Can you see the programming?
Yeah.
Back in the old days, there was no programming. There was no computers or anything to program you with. So what they saw
they
in
always
the sky was
programmed
real.
you with radio. Was the first one that they used, wasn't it? It always takes me back to H.G. Wells' radio program.
Yeah, now you're getting there.
Yeah.
And
So,
why fear us? Why make the first one a fear one? Why not make the first one beautiful?
Yeah.
So you go back to the paintings. We'll go back to the paintings. They didn't instill fear in you. They just showed you what was. Right? And then they tried to hide that from us.
The only passing of stories before the radio was by scrolls or by printing. You know?
Yeah.
And how much about that printing, they would read it they would read whatever was printed to the community in the town square, and that's how, you know, mass delivery of news in a sense was transmitted. But and I think that's where our oral traditions of passing down stories come from, you know, keeping to the stories.
Yeah. And what did they try to do? The library that you were talking about earlier, Jason, what did they do to that library? Didn't they burn it down or something?
Yeah, the Romans burnt it down, didn't they, to hide? What were they hiding? What we
That-
knew,
yeah.
all that knowledge we lost.
A lot in Alexandria, so much.
I'd say what we're talking about would have been in them books.
Yeah, the old time. Yeah, I just think we're a lot older species, and I don't know. I suppose I'm leaning more towards the ancient alien theory that they definitely came in our past.
Yeah, I was told a story, Jason. We were made and put here, and it was supposed to be a beautiful place for experience. And others came and interfered with us. Creator got cranky and sent others to fix what they'd done, but it would take a long time, and here we are. That's the story I was told.
I see repetitively, like you bring up Alexandria, which is such an awesome topic, and I think we should talk about it because it happens over and over, and it's still happening today, where sacred places, where sacred articles or spiritual openings would happen on a regular basis. Think like, okay, the tabernacle of Moshe, wandering around the wilderness, and he says, okay, here, stop. Why there stop? Because in that place, the fire of Yah comes down, and then you have the spirit meeting, so-called, where everyone hears the voice or they see the spirit beings. And we have much more recent literature or stories on this, like on my side, in the Native Americans in Cheyenne, it's very well known, understood that the chiefs sit around the fire and they smoke the peace pipe, and the smoke from the fire with the medicine man chanting and all of this, they go into vision, they go into, and they all hear and see the same thing. It's not everybody experiencing different things and they're all going off on their own little mushroom trip. They're all experiencing the very same message and the same spirit beings and seeing them in the same way.
See, that's quite interesting. That's interesting to me now, because are they all seeing the same thing, which really interests me? I just think that's really unusual, isn't it?
Well,
that's what to me provides the authenticity of it.
Yeah, because when I tell a story and I say that there's someone with me, I love having someone with me, because at that moment they're seeing what I'm seeing. They might freak out because they're not used to it, and I am. But I'm happy for them to be there because I've got a witness, a human witness, that necessarily isn't gifted, and they saw what I saw. And I got heaps of stories like that. Most of the stories I tell is I have witnesses.
Yeah, almost always, Hanlun, the creator provides, he wants, I've found in this lifetime, he has wanted witnesses to what people like you and me can do or do. And what I've found in every massive moment where there has been release of trapped souls, or I'm going through a vision of murder many times, or sacrifices or things like that, to take witness of what happened here. And the person beside me will see and go through in an essence, probably not to the same extreme that I do, because it's dependent on their own spiritual sight and training. But they do get the yes, I see that, and oh, yep, I'm understanding and feeling and hearing. Yeah, like what you said, Luna. So
most
witness is important in this.
my most favourite story to explain that was I had a girl in my kitchen one day, and the window was shut and the blind was down, and we're standing in the kitchen. She was not a spiritual person at all, and she was young, so she was like into everything material, experiencing it. And we're standing there talking, and all of a sudden the blind went up in the air. A white bird flew over our heads, and we ducked down, and it flew into the wall. And then I stood up and I looked at her and smiled and giggled. And she went, a bird just flew through the window. I went, yeah, you saw that. That's good. And she ran over to the window and realised that it was shut and the blind was down, because she thought it was open and the wind blew the blind and the bird flew through. But when she realised it was all shut, and then she realised, shit, the bird flew through the wall, and she just standing there looking at me, and I'm just laughing. It was a white dove. It was a white dove what flew in the window and through the wall, and she saw it, and we ducked. We physically ducked.
Wow, I actually had that happen in Yucatan one day. It was the middle of the day, and I had my back window open, and a dove flew in through my window, and my door was closed, and she flew right into the door and fell. And so I took care of her until she got better, because she knocked herself out. But
this one wasn't real. This was a spirit one.
I'm making a connection. I wonder if it was together. I wonder if it was same timing.
Knowing you, Malia, that wouldn't surprise me. It was probably I got the spiritual manifestation of what was happening to you.
Memory flashed into my head, and it was like it came with a white dove with a spirit being through the window, and I put her in my bureau drawer, and made her a little nest so my Siamese kitty wouldn't eat her. And made her a little nest in there and took care of her for 4 days until she could fly again.
And talking about animals, we'll go back to our the others. I've been in the bush and there's been the presence of others. The animals all run, and it's dead quiet. In the bush, it's dead quiet. And whenever the bush is dead quiet, there's something not right. It's of the other world, or there's a big predator around. We don't have big predators.
Run. Yeah, they will run like as if they're running from predator in Get Out Now. I'm very sensitive to that, especially the birds will. Birds are the very best warners of presence, and letting you know if that presence is a presence of danger or presence of, okay, calm down, it's okay. They're here to talk to you, you know.
Yeah, and it takes faith to, because Jason, all you got to do is ask Creator, you know, just say, Creator, can you show me these things so I can understand them, and be prepared for what you're going to see, and know that Creator will look after you while you're seeing them.
He knows what you can see.
Yeah, because it takes faith to know that will happen and that you're looked after. Yeah. That's why I say to people, the first thing you ever do is get yourself right with Creator. Get on the right side. But talking to people and knowing spiritual things in people, like Jason, you know, spirits and exist in that. How much of a leap of faith is it to take it to one more level and say that there are spirits that are super intelligent and can appear here and there in the sky, whatever, like they're on the next level to us? They can navigate that area. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it brings me on to another point, how they do the distance of travel. Now you'll probably be thinking they do it spiritually or with their minds or subconscious, more like.
Yeah, and their ships are run from your thoughts. They don't manually drive the ships; they run from your energy and thoughts. You put your hands on the panel and you drive from your mind.
So, if it's impossible for space travel because the distances are too far and no one can use to get the power you need, you can't do it. Are they interdimensional? See, I think that theory is quite good, where they're interdimensional. It's a different like universe we're overlapping.
Yeah, we were talking about that last night as well. That it's stacked up. Everything's stacked up on top of each other, and to get through it, you just go up through it. You just go through the levels. It's not that hard to get back and forth.
Like looking through water. Yeah, and I think that's too why we investigate the underwater for being places of entities. I know I do. I spend a lot of time in the waters, in the spirit, on the earth plane level, and have been able, I'll say this, have been able to transcend or move through not just the earthly plane, which was something that took a long time for me to learn how. Essentially, you are like you transform into a bird and you can fly as a bird. But to move cross countries, you would have to learn the form of like a swan or this kind of a form that can cross oceans. Not all bird forms cross oceans.
True.
So in each of those forms you have to go into the forest. I had to go into the forest and observe and be and find and wait for that bird to come to me. When it come to me, then I could understand it. So my first one was as a child, a great horned owl. And then after I reached about 12 years age, I met a snow owl. And so as I advanced in age and levels of spirituality, I advanced also in bird forms or in different varying animal forms that I could take on in the spirit, and each one dependent on situation too. Many times I found that I didn't get a choice. Creator would assign, you will be this for this experience. And when I'm underground as a bird, I can't fly. So I have to depend on other spirit people who are alive and as maneuverable in the spirit, or to a degree maneuverable in the spirit, to accept me and let me sit right on their shoulder, essentially. So just like Parrot in Australia, there are many, many different kinds of necessities for different things and forms in the spirit. But to ascend into a different level is for a different reason. You can't necessarily influence what's happening in the temporal plane or affect yourself in any way. If you're in a higher level, something else is happening. I have an echo.
So let's assume the others.
It's Sid Fit.
We got echo.
Sid,
how you going, Sid? You're echoing us.
From Norway.
From Norway.
Yeah. So let's assume that others are spiritually advanced. They could do all that too. That's a scary thought.
Spiritually advanced. I mean, it's one of the reasons why Creator has been pushing me into, and you, Luna, into coming into more of a speaking place, is to start to share with the others how to do this. Because with the great shift, we have the tearing of the veil that has been happening since 3.5 years ago, in steps, in little by little. It's not something that, even though when the day and the moment came, it was fully torn. But to get to that point of fully torn has been a thread by thread type of way.
I have a thing too. If I was standing here where I am now, and I saw a ship landing on the mountain, I would automatically presume that that ship come from the sky.
Right. But
Because
it's also
I didn't see
sometimes
it leave from the water or the other mountain. Do you know what I'm saying? So, because I'm a great believer that the others are here with us. They're not actually arriving. They arrived ages ago. Now they're just moving around.
Yep. Well, and a lot of the witchcraft over the past 400 years that Crowley and others participated in, I know from personal experience, the effect of that was putting those highly medicinal and the little peoples and the magical creatures into a status of sleep so that they could not affect as we used to be able to. So Piskies were able to help in a sense. And dragons were able to help, or they were there in a benevolent sense, just as the rest of creation is here for us now, though they don't regard us much, or most people they don't regard anymore. But for the ones that they do, and for what is happening now, we see these humans that had communication with the magical creatures becoming more and more aware that they are still here and having needed to be released from the trap that the witches and magicians and occultists had put them in. So it's a thing of they were locked in a cage. There's only so much you can do, but someone helping you from the other side is what's making that balance, I guess that's kind of a way to describe it. But yeah, so those cages being released, those things being opened, we are having more experiences with these magical beings coming back. But I want to say on a little side note, because the little guys have been like poking the crap out of me since we started talking, because they want me to share with Jason this idea that Creator put in my mind a few weeks ago about the little peoples. And I had this type of an experience memory from like not that long ago, probably 175 to 180 years ago. And where all that was left of the Pisces and the Duendes of Latin America all got together and formed a final talk, essentially, and decided that they were going to do this thing that they knew that they could do that would make it so they weren't little anymore. And they could be big like the big peoples, but they were still littles. But they would lose a portion of their magical powers by doing this. But they saw that it was the only way that they could fight against the battle of the big people, because they were just being smashed, literally.
Funny, I thought that about the big people. They went smaller.
They went small. I think in the very longer time ago, the big people went small in a way. Yeah. But
I've got
I'm saying they said, "Oh, we're going to die. Let's come back."
I want to delve into Jason's mind. So, Jason, everything that you've read and everything like that in history, the old creatures, all the old creatures we used to have that they say in history, the magical creatures, there were little beings, big beings. There were some with faces on their chest. There were tall white beings. There were some with one leg. On and on. Do you know where I'm getting at? Yeah. Okay, so take that. Now, take that picture. Now, put it to today to sightings of visitors. How many of them actually would correlate? We know the tall, skinny white one would.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to talk about earlier. Maybe the aliens aren't aliens and they're cryptoids, or they were creatures, or magical creatures that have always lived here.
Yep.
Is the Yeti an alien, or is it a cryptoid?
Yep.
I think the Yeti is with is with Sasquatch, the same type, because we see that in the magical creatures of like the white stag. We have the white stag and the black stag, and set in certain locations too.
Just while it's in my head, you talked about Crowley. I just want to talk about him for a minute because obviously I don't know if you know I've been doing some research about him and trying to find out about him
Yeah.
and what he was doing down here. But what I
Uh-huh.
have found out is most of it's secret because he helped the British intelligence in the Second World War, and the reason he was helping them because he was fighting the German occult side, and that comes with the myths where they had the Aryan race helping the Germans and we had another race helping us. But I don't know if actually most of the sightings started what really famous ones with a few fighters started in the Second World War. That's when it really kicked off, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
So I'm thinking, did Crowley, obviously just before then, as he opened up a world of, like Malaya was saying, is he opened up all the old magical creatures and they're not actually aliens?
Yeah, I think that's what I saw him clearly working to do, was to open the tunnels and portals and force through whatever he could force through or force out. Yeah, definitely. That's what I saw him doing.
So
Yeah.
does that mean aliens don't exist and they're actually magical creatures from our old times?
Well, when you say alien, the only thing I think and see is those tall, skinny silver beings with the oval teardrop eyes or whatever, and long, skinny fingers. I don't see. I don't know, maybe like Men in Black or something, but those things that they portray in there are all lab creations, except the silver beings. Everything else was a lab creation, something that didn't work. Of the magical beings that Crowley was opening up and bringing forth and bringing through. And they were playing with Frankenstein as well. So they were kind of essentially making beings too back then.
Yeah, I've seen.
Go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I've seen pictures where I've looked at them and gone, nah, that's not a natural being.
Yeah.
That's been a created one in a lab.
Oh yeah, created in a lab. Yep,
What were we
lots
going
of
to
things
do?
stuff we think is just like regular everyday stuff that we've always had. I've always wondered if the mosquito was made in a lab.
So, do you think, Jason, that maybe the military and that made the greys?
Are they hybrids? I don't know. There's so many myths and stories around UFOs and UFO lore and aliens, and I don't know. I just get the feeling that throughout time, I just get the feeling it's all the same thing, not the same species. Just it's hard to say it. Well, I just feel people saw what they saw back then, but we're seeing them as aliens now because we're more technologically
Yeah,
driven.
yeah, I feel that
Not
too.
seeing them as what they are. Like maybe
Yeah.
those long ones that go across the sky, maybe they're really dragons, but we can't compute it, and we're just seeing them as a long cylinder, or the greys are really trolls or things like that.
I've seen the long cylinder, and I had a fella talking to me, and the long cylinder was on the ground, and the door was open, and I leaned over to have a look to see who was in there, and there were 2 rows of beings on each side of the cylinder. It was a small cylinder, and that's what they look like. Like the beings in there, they were looking like beings that we've already know about, and one of them in particular that's not spoken about very often. I've only heard a couple of stories. He actually gave me the look of, you're a lesser being, don't look at me.
Creepy.
But
do you
they,
think that they were alien, or maybe do you think they were?
oh no,
something
they're
else?
beings. Yeah, I don't even like the
Yeah.
word alien. I'll call them the
Yeah,
others,
yeah,
and that's why I
right.
say they've been here since.
Yeah, I don't actually. I
They
believe that
all
there's species on other planets, and I believe
no,
that there's something else on this planet that's not we can't see. Are they the same thing? Are they intertwined? I suppose everything's intertwined.
right.
Yeah,
And I think that what we were talking about, Luna, definitely has last night has relevance, because we're not looking at an infinite universe space that is rolling around on a globe that is spinning through an infinite of this. But as far as what we came to conclusion last night, me and Luna and Algo are all of the same pretty close mindset, that we're on a flat plane, more like within a snow globe type effect, and that there are barriers and borders, and all that is contained within is within. And any matter that is within this place came from within this place. So that discovering of the matters is what we're discussing here. I think it makes an important definition to define that there are borders in our realm. There are so-called planets, but they are spaces or boxes. The way I see them in the realm, in the spirit realm, is there are spaces and boxes that are essentially cages or prisons for those entities that left their original habitation that he created and made for them perfect, and went to go and intermingle their species, their make and their kind, with one of the others, which produces a abomination, essentially, the scriptures call it, or something that is not of him, that it has no perfection, that has no use except to devour, tear, and destroy, and it pollutes everything that it touches. To believe or stay in the mindset that we are on a round ball globe floating through a space and spinning and spinning and spinning, it has no foundation, has nothing solid that you can stand on. And not only that, then you have no barrier for your mind, where your thoughts and your ideas are stored, where not necessarily memories are contained, though the current governing powers would like you to believe that. Memories are emotions. Memories are contained within your heart. But thoughts and ideas and conversations and pathways and all of this is all part of the spiritual realm. Why the video game complex became so important to put into individual targeted hands, because with that, your eyes being the windows to the soul, to the spirit realm, even when you're staring at that and you're maneuvering a fictional story that is in your mind on a screen, you're entering the spirit realm and you're affecting things. Though there's a box that he shoved all those in, so they didn't affect things too much. But there is purpose and reason for so-called general consciousness or overall consciousness. Why the battle of the mind, I think. Does that help?
Yeah, I look at it like when we were created, they were all there, all the others were there, and everything out there is in us, and Creator took a bit of everything, a bit of them, a bit of Creator, a bit of everything to make us. And when it got all put together inside us, it didn't all settle proper. And that's why we have conflict in ourselves, I believe, because it's that settling, and as our species gets older, it settles more and more. And the other thing I wanted to say, if you ever gone in a swimming pool and you're under the water and you've looked up at the sky, how it looks, that describes a little bit how we are in this world, looking from under the water up at the sky. We've got a story here saying before we get born, we're in a pond of water and we're waiting for our mother to walk past, and when we see a woman walk past that is to become our mother, our spirit comes out of that pond and goes into the waters of her.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's another story.
I think my general view on this whole topic is in theory, there's obviously other species on other planets. I think the odds of it are just there's just the odds of how big the universe is. That's if what we're getting told is true, that there has to be some species on another planet. Are they coming here? Maybe one or two. I think most of them are either ours or misinterpreting maybe a more spiritual side from this planet than aliens?
Yeah, I'd say they're both. But I'll say two, not necessarily they came perhaps once from another planet, but they're all here now.
Yeah.
Luna, if you speak to them or you've spoken to them or you can feel them,
Yep.
what's their obsession with anal probes?
Now, I think that's a human thing. I think that's a human thing. No, actually, spiritually, all the orifices in your body are like doorways. The energy can come in and out.
Right.
Okay. And given the human species and the natural habits that we're exposed to on a daily basis, that back door is needs cleaning, man, because they use it for all the wrong things.
They're giving us a free help.
Yeah. Honestly, Jason, those stories I hear about people getting abducted, that I'm more tended to say that's us.
Yeah,
That's not
I know what you mean. Whether they're in like some kind of MK Ultra program where they've done too much LSD and they're thinking it's aliens. So yeah, because I've read stories about stuff like that where they've been in government buildings and they think they're in alien spaceships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and I've heard stories about ordinary people telling you these things are happening to them and no one knows because it's happening to them on the side. And who would believe them until you find other evidences, Yeah, a lot of that dark stuff, I think that's a human's experiment. And then you got to remember with the visitors, the others, they would have ones of high moral and ones of less moral too, because all things have a right to exist, right? And I got a feeling the humans are sided up with the ones, lower ones, because the higher ones wouldn't have anything to do with them. They've gone out to the populace, picking up the ordinary person here and there that is more beautiful.
What's your theory on cattle mutilations?
Oh, that's interesting.
My great grandma's gone through we have lots of stories in my family from growing up in Salt Lake City about cattle mutilations. So, yeah. Go ahead, Luna, you first.
Okay. Well, this was the experience that I haven't told you about. This was part of the experience about being in a ship. And it was a human guy in a uniform, a military uniform, working with a particular type of visitor. And what I saw shocked me. It took me 3 days to just chill out and get back to normal. And I didn't ask questions while I was there. It was a bit of a precarious position. But what I saw was that they are using the cow parts like a nursery to grow things.
Yep, that's what I saw too. And especially the fluids. They were using the secretion fluids of the cows for their own skin product. But in about the 90s, that stopped being useful anymore. The radiation they use it as a protection against the radiation of the sun and the moonlight, but not so much as they don't need it as much in the moonlight. And that they had to come up with a different form of the secretional juices of the cows.
What I saw was whatever was in these things was intelligent, because when I went near it, it started shaking and responding to me. And I looked at them, and that's when I realised, they didn't want me to ask any questions because it wasn't supposed to respond to me. It was
every time I've ever seen them, they were not happy that I was seeing them. They wanted me away immediately, and even in spirit, when I've observed them, I do so from quite a distance now because it's not as difficult for me to see them as it was when I was younger. But
I'm a bit like an ambassador, and sometimes I have to do precarious jobs, and that was a precarious job. I was there as like an ambassador. The dude that I was seeing, the visitor, I was staring at him because truly my favourite colour, he was my favourite colour, and it's a toss-up between pink and orange. You know that colour? It's not pink and it's not orange. And I love that colour. And this is what colour he was, and I'm staring at him, and this dude was like a big warrior dude, and I'm staring at him, and I must have made him feel uncomfortable because he turned and his eye looked down at me, and I looked at him and went, "Oh, I'm sorry," because he wasn't used to flattery like that. Most people are scared of him, right? And I went, "I'm sorry, but you're just the most beautifulest colour I've ever seen." Well, I watched him change from this big warrior, staunch guy, being, whatever you want to call him, and I felt him go inside himself to his heart because he'd never encountered another being that wasn't afraid and was going, "Oh, you're so beautiful," like I do with that. Yeah, he responded to that, and then he had to recompose himself back into his staunch form. And by then I was doing other stuff. I'd walked off with the human bloke who was in an American uniform, by the way. American military uniform.
What color was it?
A dark colour, and he had a hat, and he had the flat hat with decoration on the front. He had decoration, whatever medals and all that shit that they have on them. So he was high up because they come and got me. And I even know how the beam works now. The beam, when you go up in the beam, if you focus on the ground while you're going up on the beam, you'll sort of fall. But if you focus on the room that you're in, as you're coming up into the beam will go solid underneath you, because that's what happened to me. I was focusing on the wrong thing, and the beam, it wasn't solid, and I nearly fell back out, and they all shit themselves. And there's a time lapse. There is a time lapse because I was gone for ages, but I was only gone from here for not very long at all.
Yeah, remember the X-Files doc that Kev randomly found in October this year, and where they discuss quite well what that time lapse is about and why it's there even.
Yeah, I was panicking going, my kids and my husband are going to miss me. I need to contact them and tell them where I am, and they're going, "Don't worry about it. It's all good. It's all good. We'll take you back home. It's all good." And it was. I was only gone. I wasn't gone half the time that I thought I was gone. It was not like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was different, and I've never really spoke about that to anybody. But that's something that happened to me, and I used that incident because there's things I haven't told you that I hold back because I wait for someone else. If someone else says them, I'll jump straight out and go, "Hey, I believe you," because that's what happened to me on that incident that I spoke about. So maybe in the future I'll tell you more about it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Same
Can
way.
you ladies cover for me for 2 minutes, and I'll be
We
back
sure
in a minute.
can.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
We should have gave you a break. How horrible hostesses we are. We didn't even give our guests a break. But, I have, from what I've seen from other people's work and that, I do believe that there's a physical lower form of our visitors, the others, and they're up to mischief with the naughty humans. That's basically how I feel. What do you reckon, Millie?
Yeah, I found them always up to mischief with the humans. That's why I watch over what their activities are, I feel like, in the spirit, because, they go taking cows or whatever. That I don't really interrupt. It's a waste of my energy to go in and disrupt a bunch of them sucking a cow. It's just like, yeah. But when they're engaging in higher levels of mischief and messing with humans or these kinds of things and trying to interrupt things, I usually am involved in disrupting that. But because they're always there, I have never found them in a benevolent state. I've never found them helping anybody. I see they have a vehement hate similar to that of I don't want to tag word it, but the Arab nations religious beliefs that consider anything that is outside of them infidels or whatever, not worthy of, nothing more than a cow, nothing more than dog. And I think there is relation in the Hindu as well to the cattle being their choice skincare product. If you look into Indian nutraceuticals, they're actually quite developed in that. It's a very real thing.
But isn't India where the cow's sacred?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Is that why it's sacred? Because it's especially for the visitors and their skincare products?
Yeah, really.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be disrespectful.
They have destroyed most elephants across the world, and it is by their hand that they nearly annihilated almost all of them for their sacredness, along with tiger.
Because when you look at India's spirituality in that, they've actually got one of the visitors that I saw in their beliefs.
Yeah, and there must be a split. Let me throw this in there, because you can't throw all the eggs in one basket. Not everybody from India is this way. We're talking about the generality of the mass religion that's there. That can be found like in Rome for Catholics. So go ahead.
Yeah. We try not to be disrespectful to anybody here, but we try to have a laugh as well. I've looked around back in time, and I've looked around, and it's like before, when the others were walking around with us and it was common knowledge, they kind of took different countries. That's how it seemed. Like you had one mob that would lived in this country and another mob chose to live in this country.
We were talking something similar about that last night, weirdly, where maybe without
it's the
going
conjunction, man.
A minefield now with race, but if you think maybe we come from the Aryan aliens, maybe you come from maybe we all come from different species and met on this planet. Who knows?
Because there is a thing that says why we're different colours, and like some of us have eyelids, some don't. Different structures on the body. Then they reckon that comes from the different visitors that contributed to our making. Perhaps this is what I was looking at the other day. I was looking at an old movie. And then I thought, hang on a minute, humans didn't look like we do back then, right? If you look at an old Roman or an old English person, even in my country, an old ancestor, we don't actually look like we do now. Our features are more defined. I think we've got a lot prettier.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. We were talking about this last night, like how we've evolved and stuff.
Yeah.
I still think maybe we had a bit of help along the way.
Well, I think I'm tending to
theory. You think they took something away?
Yeah, I think on two ways. Maybe they enhanced our physical to make us look better and function a bit better, and took away the spiritual to make us more compliant. Because in my culture, it's well known that we get upgrades, okay? But it's all a good thing. The rest of the stuff, we haven't encountered all the naughty stuff, though we have laws to cover us for that, right? So I know that this is real, and I'm just looking at history and the way we've evolved in each different country, because we got isolated. At one point we were all together. It even says somewhere in the Bible we got all separated. Again, Creator had enough and separated us.
Yeah.
And I think when we got separated, they started doing little upgrades individually in each country.
Yeah. I go along with that, and we all had different languages then, and they split us up.
Yep. Yeah. And the knowledge started changing.
We were also talking about how my friend, he doesn't think the Earth's flat. He just thinks that there's a lot, because he says everything's a theory. The Big Bang theory, that everything's a theory. But so his theory is he thinks the Earth's a lot bigger than it is. We only live in a small corner of a bigger planet. And the planet is a lot bigger than it is, and we only live in a small part of it. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Would you?
I was going to
So
say I
we only
that.
live, say, in the top corner, and what we call the Earth is a lot bigger than we actually think
We
it is.
only live on a third of the earth. 1/3 of the fullness of what we live on can we see.
Yeah, I think we're being deceived and there's more to it.
They're definitely hiding something about our history and past, and the beings,
And
whether they were others or they were aliens, or whether they were magical beings, or whether they were interdimensional beings, because we haven't really talked about that. I think that's more feasible, where I think the expanse of space and the radiation, it'd be hard to go real long distances, but then you can talk about wormholes and go into a million different theories how they could travel. You say that they can travel by using their minds, which would make sense if they were millions and millions of years older than us. But yeah, I like the interdimensional, just from, are they, because we were talking about like ghosts the other night, about paranormal. Are they ghosts? Are they aliens? Are they glitches in time? Are we living in a matrix? Is it all just a big joke on us?
Here's something different for you. I was with my daughter once and we were checking things out spiritually. We found ourselves in somewhere different. I don't even think it was on this plane. There was a room, and in the room there was, how can I try to construct it for you? So the room was a light-coloured room. In the middle of the room there was like a circle on the roof and a circle on the floor, but it had like little columns from the roof to the ground, and these just look like normal building columns, what we see today. And inside the circle was a kind of sand, and we were actually in that circle in the area in the room, and they could see us, and it was like a transmitter. Somehow, you know what I mean? It was like we were generating ourselves to that place, and we were turning up in this little room in this cylinder thing, and they could actually see our energy like we were a spirit. And because they were looking at us going, "Who's that?" And I said to my daughter, "They can see us." She goes, "Yeah, I know." I said, "I think we better get out of here." And it was like nature technology, some form like that. And it was like a radio, and we appeared with visual in the radio room. But it wasn't technology like we know.
Weird. Yeah. So are we crossing into their universe, or are they crossing into ours? I suppose a bit of both.
Oh yeah, I think both.
And what do you think about time travel? Do you ever pick anything up on?
Yeah, but I think from my experience, it's not quite like everyone says it is, because I've had that happen to me. I was up at the mountains here at a place called Katoomba, and I was going to my friend's house, and I'm standing at the taxi rank waiting for a taxi, and I'm standing there and this feeling come over me, and as I looked down, my shoes changed, and they look like shoes from 1920 with the little bows on them. And I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? And I looked away, I looked back down, and my shoes, and this was for real, it wasn't with my third eye, this was for real, right? And I looked down, my shoes had changed, and I looked up my legs, and I'd wearing a 1920s dress. At that moment, I looked across the road, and the cafe in front of me, there were people in it that were sitting in there, they had 1920s clothes on. And a car, I saw in my peripheral vision, a car from the left, which was in nowadays, was driving past, and as it hit that area, it changed to an old car from 1920s. And I'm standing there watching all this happen, and this energy came over me. It was like a woo, woo, woo kind of feeling energy. And I'm standing there thinking, wow, this is going on. This was lasting for about a minute now, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, I'm not going to come back to reality. And I'm waiting for this taxi, hurry up, and I'm still looking across the road, looking at me, looking at these people. It hasn't changed yet, and really, for honest to Creator, I thought that I was going to be lost in time. And then all of a sudden, bang, it just stopped. And I got in the taxi, arrived, I jumped in the taxi, went to my friend's place, ran in, sat on the lounge, and her daughter goes, "Aunt, you look like you've seen a ghost." And my friend started laughing because they all know I see spirits. And she started laughing, and she realised at that time it was something other than a spirit that I had encountered, because I don't react like that to the other stuff. This actually freaked me out. And I couldn't explain it. I knew they wouldn't understand, and I just said, I'll be all right. It's kind of like that. But that's what happened to me, and it lasted for over a minute. And I call that time travelling.
Awesome. What's your theory on black-eyed kids?
Hey.
I don't
They
want to talk
freak
about
me
it.
out. Okay.
Well, I haven't met one, and I don't think I want to.
No, already.
But I've
Sounds
met a
like
black-eyed
may
cat.
have.
I had a black-eyed cat. There was this cat on my back fence. Even my husband, we were looking at it going, that's not normal cat. Look at its eyes. It was full black, man. And it was just sitting there going, like that.
I'm walking on water.
And the other cats were acting weird, and they weren't going near it like it was another cat coming into their territory. Their actions were totally different. And I love animals. Anyone that knows me, I will not harm anything. I picked up a rock and threw it at this cat because it was not a cat, man. It had totally black eyes. I don't know what the hell it was.
Yeah.
Creepy.
It's the only encounter I've ever
Black-eyed
had.
kids are then?
Very
demonic.
black
Well,
goo.
Well, I know spirit can take over the physical thing.
A
So-
very, very demonic level of entrance. They come from the lower third dimension. It's extremely difficult to bring one out of that. It takes a long maze of yuckiness for them to get out of there. And when they do manage to get one out, which it takes a long time too, they have to go through repeated incantations and spells and have certain amounts of blood and et cetera, to even draw one out. And they are like the 4 horsemen type dark entities of that dimension. And they are extremely difficult to get rid of, extremely difficult to kill. I don't know if they can be. All I've ever been able to do is banish them back to where they came from. So, yeah, I don't like encountering.
No,
Mate,
it
they're
really
not-
creeps me out as well.
But yeah, we're good. We're good. Actually, a very rare thing happened while you were talking, Luna.
Yeah.
Looked down, and I felt spirit urge me to look down while you described the circle on the floor, I think.
Yep. Yep.
And down at my feet is an old Bible that I had ripped off the shelf when we were talking to Renzo. And I was
Yep.
like, look how old this thing is. It was still sitting there, and Spirit said, pick it up, open it. And I opened it, and it was Psalm 23, Protection Psalm. So I felt that totally relevant, especially since you brought that up, Jason.
Wow.
Yeah, I only mentioned them because I didn't know whether you thought they were to do with
Yeah.
it. Because most people think
a lot
they're
of protection.
aliens. I've always thought they were more demonic-y.
Oh, no, I was going to say they're not the little greys trying out a new outfit to talk to us, are they?
Yeah.
There you go, Max. There you go. So those are our good little orphans over there. Right. But so, no, and they're very rare. Most of them are stories and legends to increase the consciousness and belief of their existence, to open the portal and the door for one of them through. I can promise you and tell you that if they do reach the mortal temporal plane, the highest levels of angels attending to the matter, and if there's any deaths because of it, those deaths go directly to Creator. So
That's good to
no
know.
big deal. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I haven't encountered them.
They've always interested me in a weird way. Obviously, I don't like them, but in a sort of, I don't know, same as Slender Man, that always freaks me out. Maybe it's because of the thing I saw as a kid. But the black-eyed
Yeah,
kids and shadow
definitely.
figures always made me freak out.
Well, I was going to bring up Slender Man earlier when we were talking about the old creatures, the old beings still being around, because in our culture there were tall, skinny beings and short, little, fat ones. And the tall, skinny ones actually liked us, and they'd watch out for us. And the short, fat ones would cause you mischief. And when you were out in the bush, the tall, skinny ones would stand behind the trees, and if they saw the short, fat ones coming up to harass us, they'd intervene. So when I saw the Slender Man, that I make jokes about, but ours didn't wear clothes because they didn't wear clothes, but it was the same being. But it's getting a bad rap this time. It was a good person last time, now it's getting a bad rap.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. They always freak me out. It's just the stories behind them, and just generally,
And
just really, really freak me out. I think I'd probably that would be the one thing I wouldn't want to see.
Yeah.
But,
what you want to see?
that's when I noticed how something from the past that might have been good has been changed and put fear into it when I saw the Slender Man, because I thought, hang on a minute, they were our friends and now they put a scary fear on them and they're our enemies. Because the short, fat ones, people have talked about them. I think they call them, they're blue. Have you ever heard anyone encountering them? Yeah, they're the mischievous ones, not the tall, skinny ones.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of misinformation and all that, and it is so mixed up. I don't blame anyone for throwing it to the side and going, "If that, it's too hard," because there's too much mixture of truth and BS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like a propaganda.
Posted like that would be an AI interpretation of the black goo robot. So they've made a robot entity to take the form of these so-called actual. The one above the first paranormal posted would be a very dark child, unfortunately, not a child. So that's a lot more real. That one is just a paranormal. Good grief, you're going to get me going on pictures now. Jason, stop it. That one is a drawing. That one's to go with a doll. It goes with a
creepy stuff. All right, you're creeping me out, people.
I told you, Wookie, you were going to get a ton of pictures on this one. So there you go. You got pictures for your visuals. Creep everybody out.
Yeah, I've just found them fascinating in a sort of eerie kind of way. I wouldn't like to see one, but I don't know. They just really, really freak me out.
Well, I can say that you probably will, so don't be afraid.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is that last night,
Don't be afraid of it. No.
Jason, you were talking with your friend about this stuff. Me, Malia, and Algo were talking about this stuff. And when I just looked at it, then I thought, oh, the buggers, they knew. They lined it up, so we were all in sync talking about this stuff. See how we get looked after?
Oh, yeah.
It was all orchestrated.
We recorded our conversation, so you can take a look back and get all weirded out and paranormaled out at synchronicities if you want.
Yeah.
So another question then to take us away from the creepy kids. What's your view on the Men in Black? You ever picked up anything on it, either of you two?
Oh, I'm glad you said that. All right. So I've had an encounter. Before this encounter, I didn't really think much about it, right? I thought, yeah, all right, it's just another one of those things. I like to stay with a nice solid foundation that's simple so I don't get confused. All that stuff confuses me. So I didn't really bother about it until one day I had to do a smoking on a daycare centre and clean the building out so the energy is real nice for the kids. So I lobs up there and I'm outside and I'm preparing myself and getting the little coolamon ready, what we put our little fire in. And behind me was the daycare centre and I could hear men talking like they were in a business meeting. And there were like 2 or 3 men. And I thought, oh, they must have a meeting going on in there at the same time. I'll watch out that I don't walk straight into it with my smoke and stuff and interrupt their meeting. So I continued what I was doing. I picked it all up and I'm ready to go. And I go in the front door and the front door is gated off. I don't know if they have it in your country where the daycare centres, the front door's got like a pool fence around it, so no one can run away with the kids. You've got to go through these sections. So I went in the first section, went in the front door, proceeded round to the left, and went into all the rooms and offices and that, moving around in a circle. I thought I'd go into a circle, round to the left, coming in, and end up back where I was at the front door. So I was doing that, and I could still hear these guys having this meeting. But I'm thinking now, as I'm moving through the building, cleaning it out, where exactly are they having this meeting? What office are they having it in? Because I haven't encountered it yet. Okay, so I kept going, concentrating on what I was doing. Finally got round to the building, got to the last bit, which was where they keep the babies, and the door next to that would lead me back into the hallway where the front door is. And I can still hear these dudes talking. I'm thinking, all right, so I just went through that. I thought maybe there's a room, I'm going to walk into another room that I haven't seen yet, and that's where they are. So I finished what I was doing. Mind you, got a little bit of a funny feeling from the baby's room that I'll address another time. Cleaned it up, moved forward, went through the door. At that moment, I heard their voices and I thought, they're on the other side of the door here. Okay, there must be the hallway. So I quickly opened the door, rushed into the hallway. There was no one there. I thought, oh, quick, they've gone through the front door. If I open it quickly, I'll catch them. And as I opened the front door, I saw the foot of a guy in a black suit with a black sock and a black shoe walking towards the left, out of view as I was coming out the front door. So I jumps out there, looked round to the left and realised that there was nothing there. It was the fence that stops everyone from going into. And there's nothing there. There's no more building. No, you can't walk forward anymore. And I stood there and went, I just had an encounter with the men in black, but all I saw was his feet. But I heard them the whole time. Spun me out, left it at that. About a week later, I went into the shops in the main shopping centre, and I'm in Target. I don't know if you have Target. We nickname it Target. And I'm in the aisles there, and I could hear these fellas talking again. I'm thinking, bullshit, what the hell is this? I looked up the aisle, and guess what I saw? Someone walking past in a black suit, but all I saw were the feet. Again, this shoe and sock. And the thing about the shoes and socks and the trousers, it was like they were all one. And I'm running up the aisle and think, I'm going to get you this time. And I ran up the aisle and I turned around and there's no one around. And that was my physical experience with the men in black. If someone can enlighten me more, please do. And why they were listening to me, I don't know. And there's a bit more to it, but that's another story I haven't finished investigating. But there you go.
What do you think they are then? What feeling did you get? What do you think it is?
Okay, so with the second encounter that I'm not going to tell you about right now, maybe in the future, because I need to sum it up more. When I was talking to them, there's male and female, by the way, and they're not all bald, some have hair. When I was talking to them like I do a spirit, okay? But the difference was, it was like when someone's out of body, they're actually really alive. They're not a deceased, a no body spirit. They are actually alive. And when I looked behind them, it's like they have a central place that they work out of. And they dispatch these male and female black-suited people, if you want to call them that, all over the place. And they know a lot. They got maps and they got all this stuff, information, and yeah, they're on the ball. They know a lot.
Yeah, that's why our show gets really paranormal with Kev, or this is why, because I think that the story leads to the 1981 song that I went into investigation, the Flock of Seagulls video that I did, and the murder mysteries that go with that, because Target seems to be the general location where these things happen. And having, the Space Age Love Song, exactly, Jules. And it's all revolving around the MIB, and along with even other ones, I'm trying to think. I always have a hard time remembering that. They're like the British spy shows and things like that.
So what are they? Are they human? Are they
They're
Are they
human.
others? Are they something different?
They're like
human.
us. Yeah, they're like
upgraded
humans.
humans. They're
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the robotized humans, or like a Deadpool human,
Like
where
a
they
clone or something like that?
No, they're different looking. They look different to each other, and you can have a proper conversation like I'm talking to you now. They're quite okay. And
you
they,
can sit with them at a bar and talk with them and not know you're
yeah,
talking.
you can insult them and stuff, and they'll respond like it's just that same. They're like a perfected species of us, I suppose.
They're
But
kind of
not
like,
us.
but not us. Exactly. They have no soul.
Yeah, they're not us.
They have no light in their soul.
They're different.
No
Yeah,
light
they're
in their
different.
eye. And
Yeah.
so they
So they're almost a shell copy of us.
they're like information gatherers. I've always encountered them as being
But maybe they watchers.
to
Maybe the
increase their
watchers.
race. I think, I think there's not watchers, but research and development.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's a good one. Research and development. Yep.
yeah, like Aeon Flux type, how to achieve the higher immortality, stronger body that has less. See, they see us crying as weakness. They see us bending to simple things as something that needs to be bred out of human. But
Yeah,
these
Yeah,
are
they
the
don't have.
rights of tender and compassion that
So
Creator
here's a
gave.
question for you both then.
Yeah,
To tie it all in, are we unique as humans? Because the Bible
yeah.
says we are. Lots of things say, are we unique and having empathy and crying in love and stuff like that? Are we unique in all the species and all
Well,
the?
let's take a real critical view at that. Let's take like a journalist view or something of unbiasedness. Um, what, why are human always the target? In every instance, it's human that is the epicenter. We're in the center, and they're attacking to us to take away what is our core. Why would that be? Unless we are very different within us that they don't have, that they can't obtain, or was not given to them in their original creation.
So does that lean towards there being the creator, as in maybe not the Bible getting it right, but saying we are unique and all the others, like angels and
Bible
angelic
got it
or other
way wrong.
species?
English King James Version Bible, New King James, most English translations are completely wrong. But looking at Hebrew or Aramaic text is very, very different. And what you see is a Native American tribal picture of some guys in the desert who sing and have magical abilities, have clear communication of spirit with spirit creatures, can do greater works than all other magicians races on the earth, and have some type of unique ability. So out of this stems 12 tribes, which is what we essentially call humans with other kinds, right? So yeah, it's a great big mix of things, but there is solid proof in the Hebrew language itself of just simplicity in creation, in what we can observe and view of how water levels itself, or how chemicals work together, or metals and alloys. All of these basic rules and fundamentals are found in Hebrew language, which all other languages stem out of. So there has to be some type of foundation that we have to be able to stand on something. But not only that, when, like Luna said, when you open your door of faith, it's not Christian religion. Neither one of us care even a tiny bit about the Christians who burn witches at stakes and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and don't understand people like me and Luna at all. I mean, they seek to destroy us.
Yeah, I've been burned as a witch in a past life.
Oh yeah, and so many other things, right? But in the end, these women in scripture that are often negated are really powerful beings and do incredible things where they change the tide of history. And like the Library of Alexandria, what was that before? It was the Greece Alexandria. Well, that belonged to Danielle, who was a female. Everyone wants to say Daniel is male, but no, Daniel was the little girl, the shepherdess who was out taking care of the sheep, who couldn't even put on armor. So she
I
slayed
tend to
the.
agree with you, as in, I believe that obviously some religions, I won't go into which ones, but some of the major ones they sort of made women either into scarlets or women of ill repute. And do you know what I mean? Even like Mary Magdalene, I think she's a lot more important in the story than they make out her to be.
Extremely more important, because there's 5 Marys to begin with, 5 Miriams, and Miriam is really in the Hebrew means the mother queen, the strong arm of the people.
So, do we believe that maybe, if depends on your view, do you think that maybe, obviously, if Jesus was real, he might not be the Son of God. He could be anything. Was he an alien? Did he know about
Jesus is
aliens?
monster.
Did he know
Jesus is
about?
a
Could he do
monster.
what you did? Did he
He's like the
travel?
first MIB, really. The idea of Jesus, not Yahushua Messiah, not the one that they crucify. I'm talking the idea of Christian religion Jesus right now has understanding of. If people could in actuality see what he was really like in that timeline, they would be blown away and discard him so quickly, because he would be like completely the opposite of what they have in mindset and understanding of what he's like.
Yeah, what they
Not only
forget,
Yeah,
they
go ahead.
they forget that he had a human body and he had to eat, he had to sleep, he had to wash, he had to relieve his bodily fluids just like everybody else.
I be-
Yeah.
I
And
believe.
very tribal. Like,
So, what about all the old gods, like, I don't know, the Egyptian gods, and going back to them? Do you believe, or do you think I've just watched too much Stargate?
Little G's, what I call little G's.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
creator and creator beings.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Jason, who's interviewing you here?
I
Nah, it's awesome. It's been a really good conversation.
Yeah, I would love to talk about Egypt. We should do that again and make it an Egyptian topic, because that's a whole nother volume, Jason.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. We were talking about that at our fire circle the other day. One of the fellas come in and he mentioned it, and I just went, yes, and they all laughed because they knew that he'd opened the door. And we were talking about the Gympie Pyramids and the Gosford Glyphs and the writing and how they came here to learn from us and then took it back there. We need Donnie. He's part of this too, this conversation. But the way it's going, Jason, I'm going to have to make you a permanent guest on the round table. We have a few empty chairs, you know.
That's all right. I'm always happy to join the team.
Cool. So let's summarize everything we spoke about. So have we actually got anywhere in this conversation, Jason?
Say that. I was about to say,
rabbit trails, what?
there's so many different possibilities, and people's got different views on it and see it slightly different. It's just we've created more questions than I think we've answered.
Yeah, it seems that way.
We always do that. Spiritual creatures do that, and that means that there's advancement for the next talk.
I haven't got any questions.
No, they're good, but I think for others, there's a lot more questions.
No, I understand. So, this question still remains because we don't have physical positive proof to show everybody. It seems that only some people have some things and some people have other things. and we've summarized there is a gap where the beings, visitors, others, whatever you like to call them, they are here, they are there, and there seems to be another opponent that works for the Dark Ones amongst this mixture. So we can all agree that they've been here throughout history. That's one thing we can agree on. What their role is in today has been covered with misinformation and truth mixed together, and programming of how we've been brought up. So it sort of lies into your individual experience and what you've learned from other sources. And I've always been one, I don't like grafted knowledge like a tree when you graft on another fruit. I tend to think it'll fall off at one stage. It's better to have the knowledge from the roots up and not graft anything from the outside that doesn't fit better. That's how I stay grounded. So the questions still remain, and I'm going to leave it with you, Jason, and then we'll hand it to Malia. After everything we've talked about, what are your thoughts now, Jason?
Well, I was just thinking that I've gone from being young and thinking it was all going to be like Star Trek and there was UFOs flying about with saucers. Then I got a bit older and I believed that they were all black projects. Then I got into religion and I thought they were all demonic or angels. Then I got into like interdimensional theory. So are they interdimensional beings? Then now I'm quite into simulation theory. So are we all not really here? And all you two are picking up on is like, I don't know, you're picking up on the ones and zeros on the matrix code, maybe. Who knows? I don't think that helps. But I think the problem is there's so many different theories and different possibilities that any of them could be true, and who knows, they could all be true. It could be a mixture of all of it.
Yeah. Well, really interesting you bring that up, because with the ones and zeros theory in learning languages, computer language was another one I had to really compress. I just grew up learning it. And for that one, I found it now extremely useful in searching out light within the net, seeing in spirit how the net is like we're all in the sea as fishes, and the internet has caught us in its web, essentially all of us. And so within, you're looking for, and this, as they tighten it and bring it more and more aware that we're all stuck. Unfortunately, not really though. There is a way out, but for now, we're in this to search out radio waves, search out, how do I want to say this? Getting to the end of my brain line, so sorry. But
no,
we come to a place where I think that we need to congregate. Our souls are searching for answers really quickly because of the massive shift and changes of 2020. Regardless of, and though it is quite apparent that so many of us have been going through the steps of trying to warn people, and getting cabbaged and tomatoed for that, saying, look, this is what they're doing. It's not a conspiracy theory. They're doing operations. This is Black Hawk. And this is just like the 80s when they started this over here. And look, now they're increasing that operation. And for those of us who went through military training in the early thousands and into 2010 or so, and maybe a little bit more than that, probably 2010, really got to see, especially if you joined in the US or the Air Force, in the West Coast, you got to see advancements in military in a major way, where it shifted after 2011, and you could see completely the difference between what it was like on the base in 2008 compared to what it was like on the base in 2013. Totally different. And very quickly, it did all of the bases in the US change. So in military standpoint, it was quite obvious that political powers had shifted to a point to morph our US, what was known as US military, into something other than what we grew up in, those who fought in Vietnam or in more recent, like Desert Storm, understood, or why they joined the military to begin with, to fight for their country, patriotism, etc. And turning out to be revealed in 2012 and 2013 that everything that happened in 2011 was in order to change the military to the point that we have today, where all steps have been completed for complete total global surveillance, for pushing of instant, overnight almost. Within 7 days, they had the entire globe shut down and everybody in lockdown for put your mask on. It began on the very first day of the year, on 3/17, on March 17th.
And that leaves me with the thought, before we wind it up, is that is the vaccine that they're giving us for the visitors so we don't give them any germs.
Oh, leave it there. Nice one.
Yeah. So I'd like to thank our guest Jason for coming and having that awesome, stimulating conversation. And thank Malia for coming every week like she does. Thank you, darling. And I hope we've left you with some food for your mind on the precipice of this change as the planets are lining up and the energies peaking for a change in this world. So I hope you've enjoyed our conversation. Thank you again, Jason, for coming.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. We're going to get him back, people. We have to get him back after that conversation. We'd be mad not to get him back. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas or a Merry holiday, whatever your belief is. May they